about this matter. So listen to the governor and let's hear the points that he's made.
I have encouraged the People's Democratic Party, they must file a suit against the governor of Ebonyi State, David Umahi, and the governor of Cross River State, Ganayari, for defecting to the All Progressive Congress without any reason preferred as provided in the Constitution or any other enabling law. Let it be on record that the party has been able to challenge this, and let us await the outcome of the decision of the courts. Because the court has a role to strengthen our democracy. And part of the role the court must play is to make a final pronouncement on this issue of defection from one party to the other, having been elected on a particular political party. And when there are no divisions in the party, and people will come up with all kinds of excuses, they must challenge this. So that they are challenging the one of them. We cannot let go these other two states. It doesn't matter whether they win at the end of the day, but for once, let there be a pronouncement.
All right, let there be a pronouncement by the court.
Time has come that the judiciary must rise up to the occasion to make a final pronouncement on this issue of defection. And that will go a long way to strengthen our democracy. Because if we do not take action, you will find out a situation where you have a one-party state, and that will not be good for our system, for our democracy. What PDP is looking for is not just that they want to reclaim the seats, but that a pronouncement must be made by the judiciary of this incessant defection without no reasons at all.
All right. Good morning, Professor Ekekwe joins me here. He's a political scientist, and we will look at this matter together, of course, with you on the other side. Good morning, Prof.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. This is your forte.
It's supposed to be. But
okay, so 2023 is approaching, and this is not unusual. You know, it's to the build-up to what happens there. PDP had Cross River State, and they had Ebonyi State, and now the tables have turned, and the governor is saying no. The court needs to do something about this to stop governors from defecting. What is your thought?
Well, I think with due respect that His Excellency is being a bit opportunistic. Defections have been happening. Yeah. They've happened from APC to PDP, both at the governor's level, senators, House of Reps, houses of state assemblies. I didn't hear him then, when he favored the PDP, talk about going to court. He was very instrumental in the conversion of the Edo governor from APC to PDP. Yes, he played a very critical role, if I understand it correctly, in that process. But for some reason, Ebonyi and Cross River don't seem convenient. One, because the PDP could, until now, claim dominance of the South-South and the Southeast, and for good reason, I must add. But that seems to be changing, and that's, I think, what has set off the alarm bells in His Excellency's mind. He says there was no division in the party, excuse me, that would have caused these people to defect. But what divisions in the party existed in the past? Parties are voluntary organizations. I can belong to one party today and tomorrow I change my mind. All right? So in principle, there's nothing that says wait until there's a division. There's a crisis before you go. No. The parties, it is if people were defecting based on principle. And I must say here, I don't know that Ebonyi or Cross River or any other defection in this country has happened on principle. But if it were happening on principle, that would be in keeping with the principles of party membership and party structures. Parties have their problems, they have crises, they have arguments. Parties are supposed to be organizations where people of a like mind, with a program, with a vision for the society, come together to say, if the society accepts us, these are the programs we are going to implement. All right? And on that basis, you can stay. But if in the process you disagree with some policy change in the party, you could easily leave. no law binds you, not in any country that I know of.
But they're quick to quote the Constitution, Section 68, subsection 1G and 109 1G. Says a member of the National Assembly shall vacate his seat or State House Assembly in a legislative house of which is a member if being a person whose election to the House was sponsored by a political party becomes a member of another political party before the expiration of the period for which that House was elected.
That's very good. That's what the law provides. Which of them has implemented that law at the national level or at the state level? That's why I said earlier that His Excellency was, speaking from a position of convenience. He wants the court to test it. This will be something that the parties themselves test. We are shifting our political problems to the judiciary, which should not be the case. It's a weakness of the system that he calls for the courts to come and rule, adjudicate on what is happening within the political parties. And we've seen instances in the past where the court have, for whatever reason, said, that's your party problem, we don't come into it, you go sort it out yourselves. So shifting this one there doesn't solve the problem. What solves the problem is for those people who are running these parties to sit back to themselves and say, what is democracy? How do we run it? Where do the parties come in? Where do we as individuals come in? How do we organize our parties? On what principles are these parties founded besides money? Because in Nigeria, that is what is pushing everybody. And even in some other African countries, this is not the only place where we are having problem with crossing carpets, as we call them. South Africa had the same problem. In fact, initially, if I remember correctly, it was not even part of their constitution. When it suited the ANC to have people cross over from other parties into the A, they went and amended the constitution because they were the majority party. So my point is that these are things which parties manipulate in order to win electoral advantage. There are no strict laws that you can say, oh, the court must rule that you can't cross over. If we played our politics right, about say, crossing from one party to another is wrong. What the Constitution says is what must happen. But my point is, it is right, it's in the Constitution. But we swear to run by the Constitution, but we never implement the Constitution. We lie to ourselves, we lie to the country. It is the same lie that we are seeing playing out in crossing from one party to another. So if we want to get back to where things should go, let us tell each other the truth. And we start from there. It's now when we are playing on the carpet of truth. I can now say, oh, no, you shouldn't be crossing. If you cross, you lose your seat. And we recontest it. That is what should be. But it has never happened. The question now from what the governor says is, this should be adjudicated by the court. In my opinion, he's going to the wrong place to look for solution. The pollution is within the party. All right? Because if you're my representative, assume that I really cast my vote for you, and you wake up tomorrow and say, I no longer belong in that party. But there was a program I supported in principle. You had a policy, you had a program, you had a platform. And I looked at that platform, I looked at that program, I looked at you, I looked at the party, I said, this is the person who will represent me. Then you wake up tomorrow and say, no, I'm no longer of that party. You've changed the rule of the contract. We must go back to the people. That is the principle that is in the Constitution.
This is a very interesting aspect to it. The matter of who do we vote for? Do we vote for the political party or we vote for the candidate?
Yes. That we are confused here about it. Where you have proportional representation in Parliament, it's easier and better for people to understand that they are voting for the person. Here we are voting for the party, because it is the party that brings you out. It's only now we are debating whether we should even allow independent candidacy. All right? If you had independent candidacy, it means Ekekwe comes out. I say, this is what, if you voted me in, I'm going to do for you. You can vote me in on my recognition as a person. All right? And some of that, even in our system, still happens. Because for some of us, neither PDP nor APC is any boss to traveling. Right? But you may know somebody who's in APC. You may know somebody who's in PDP. And you know that this person if he had the opportunity, he would try to at least make some change. I will support that person. And I really have no use for the party. But for this person, I'm going to go flat out to give them support. So some of that happens. But our system is murky, is confused. All right? The parties presume you are voting for their party. And that's why when they move at the gubernatorial level, they insist all their commissioners, all members of the state assembly will follow them. Why wouldn't those people follow? They didn't appoint commissioners based on their their skills and professionalism. They appointed them because some godfather said, put this person there. The members of the state houses of assembly, they are there. Many of them were sponsored by the governors. So when the governor moves, all of them know that they must move. And when the governor says, if you criticize me, if you do this, hey, then you turn around and now say, oh, you can't go because I don't want you to go. We need to get back to a system of order, a system of honesty, a system of integrity, first of all, within the political parties, and then within the electorate. If we did that, and they, the governors, members of the National Assembly and State Assembly, they are our elites, they are the leaders. All right? Unless they resolve among themselves as a class to say, unless we do A, B, C, this country is going to slip from our hold, they will lose it.
All right, and I think that's part of what the Rivers State governor doesn't want. He doesn't want the party to lose, some states, and of course that's why he's saying PDP do well to take legal action against Ayade and Umahi.
Let me just add, that position also presumes a loss of confidence in the electorate. All right? Oh, very clearly. All of them know that if the chiefs were really down, they know how they got to office. That election happened on paper. So they don't have the political strength to go back to the public and say, this is who I am, this is what I can do. You supported me, support me again. The public is going to ask, where's the money? Yeah? You sort them. Who has the power to sort in this country? The governors. Because they're stealing from state coffers to run party affairs. So when you lose a state, you are not saying, I've lost the electorate.
You lost money.
You've lost money. And you're going to lose the electorate because you have lost that money that you would have used to buy them. That's why I say it is a loss of confidence in the electorate. If I were confident in the electorate, you defect to wherever you want to. We'll come to the next election, we'll teach you where you should belong.
But what are those things that the electorate will be looking at that would make this, instance happen?
Well, very easily. Did Governor ABC deliver an office? Did Representative or Senator ABC deliver an office? All right? Do we see any hope within this party that in the next 5 years, because of the program that they put before us, and because we know they'll be faithful to the program, not the one you promise change and you don't give any change, all right? But you need to, and that's why I say it goes back to that elite, that class that is ruling us. They have to begin to show us why we should trust them. There's nothing they have done that gives the public confidence to trust them. People are not as bad as we want them to believe. People go for money and so on because they know, hey, that's the way it plays now. If those same people were to change the rules, which they themselves have written, which they themselves have enforced on the public, the electorate will also see change. That's why we can vote them in today. You go to Creek Road Market, you mention, I beg, forget that person. All right? They don't have loyalty. And they don't have loyalty because you've not achieved, you've not delivered. When you give service, you earn loyalty. What they have is a temporary, it's a contract. And you can take a contract just as Ayade and yes, have done in Cross River and Ebonyi. You can just take it up and keep working. But loyalty, that's something that comes from deep within you. That's a commitment you make to somebody. Not because you worship them, but because there's something about them. They've given you service, rulership, leadership. It's not about domination. It's not about going there to make money. You say you have power, and we say that power comes from the Almighty Father, but you abuse it. The power given to us at individual level, at social level, at whatever level, is for service. When you don't use it for service, this is what happens. you don't have the loyalty of the people. I'm sure if Ayade or whoever, Ebonyi State Governor, if they went on the streets today, people wouldn't give a hoot whether they were PDP. Yes, they wouldn't. They would look for, oh boy, is he bringing money? Even their party members. If the money is not going to be there, sorry, they won't be there.
This is disastrous. So the party members have been taught that the way to go is to share the money. So once the money is not coming out, then you're not the favorite person.
Yes.
And that's the structure and the system that the political classes have created.
Exactly. And that's what is running. That's what they are encouraging. When people defect in River State from APC to PDP, what do we see? Don't they even get some money?
When Nigerian feel the lines will be open in a bit, the commercial has to play now. We're talking defection and legal action being called by the River State government. Is saying PDP take legal action against Ayade and Umahi for defection. They had no reason to defect. But then again, what policies, what ideologies are the parties running on? And then again, the people that vote, do they vote for political parties or they vote for individuals? Professor Ekekwe is here with me, and we keep talking afterwards. Stay tuned.
This is the Morning Crossfire on 92.3 Nigeria Info.
Thank you for staying tuned. We get back into the conversation. We're live on Facebook at Nigeria Info PH, on WhatsApp 08090306416. We've got messages on WhatsApp. We get straight to them. And Wike is crying because the shoe is on the other leg. If it were APC governors defecting to PDP, he'll be congratulating them and shaming the APC. If someone is not comfortable with the policies of a party, that person can leave, unless you want the person to be a prisoner in the said party. Remember, a person's picture is on the ballot paper, and I believe most people vote for the person on the ballot. That's what Joe says. Good morning to you and your guest, Professor Ekekwe. Says Governor Wike is absolutely 100% right. The court needs to come into these issues of people defecting. I wonder how a party will support a candidate to win an election. After winning the election tomorrow, the candidate will defect to another political party with their mandate. Nobody voted for individuals, rather political party. The National Assembly and court need to come into these issues. Atwegu sent that in. Kelvin says, I do not believe the governor is an opportunist. Please ask your guest. If the wake-up call by the governor of every state starts seeing the light of day and the State Assembly, National Assembly, and even the Constitution promulgates the law, would it not salvage a nation where Nigeria's electoral system would be on the front burner in Africa? How?
But the problem is not that there's no law. The problem is that they are not obeying the law.
The same people?
Yes. The Constitution is the highest law of the land, and the Constitution has provided what should be done. It is their responsibility from the word go to have been enforcing what is in the Constitution. They swore to us, we saw them on television, that they will defend the Constitution. When they are not defending it, passing it on to the law courts is, in my opinion, the wrong way to go.
All right. 0817-923-0002, 0817-923-0003. Austin says the question of whom the people voted for is a long settled one. The Supreme Court in Amechi vs. Meha established that parties are not individuals' own votes cast in elections, and until there is a constitutional amendment, the promulgation or the proclamation of their lordships remains the law. You want to respond to that?
Yes. Again, it comes back to what law are we obeying? All right? Like I said, it's not that the laws are not there. It's not that there are no court judgments that we can use to support this, but we support the law, we obey the law when it is convenient for us to obey it. The laws are not made for the best times. They are made for the worst times. The laws are not made because there are no good people in the society. They are made so as to check the bad people in the society.
Okay.
All right? And when even those we supposed were good people turn bad, the law is not helpful to them, especially when they're the ones who can say, I will obey or I will not obey. So that's where the problem is. It comes back, and this is the point I'm making, it comes back to those individuals who have to run the affairs of state. With what level of integrity have they come to run these affairs of the state?
All right, we go to Mayor. He's in Rumolumeni. Good morning, Mayor.
Good morning, the guest in the studio. I greet you, sir.
Good morning.
Okay. I think the governor is being double standard here, because we know the role he played for Obaseki and what he said at that time. Now it's not favoring the PDP, and that's why he's coming out. So fine, if this sees the light of day and the court enshrine it in our constitution, it will be good, because I don't think it is best for politicians not to believe in party ideology, and they just swing to anywhere they feel is good for them. But the governor saying in his speech that if Nigeria becomes a one-party state, it's not good for our democracy. Yes, but Rivers State, under his watch, he has made it a one-party state. All the local government chairmen, almost all, if there is any one that is not there, is a PDP. Everybody in the house are PDP, and he's comfortable with it. There it is one-party state, and it is good for him. Why is he crying now?
All right.
The federal government is even better than what is happening in Rivers State.
All right, thank
you.
So
you should just, take his suit and let us see whether it will come out well.
All right, let's see how that goes. Austin is calling from Anelga. Augustine, good morning.
Yes, thank you very much. I must commend the media for standing in the positions that we had no opportunity to discuss about. I want to call the attention of the Prof that he is a teacher, and sometimes a teacher has to be cautious of the words he uses. One, he said the governor is an opportunist, and again he said there was no law. But if he referred him to a law, you see, if the lawmakers decide to also put up the law that will make them to abide to the law, is something that is worth noting. Now, look at the situation. If we actually consider politics to be an idea of leading or managing governmental affairs, we should differentiate it from craftiness or mischief. If a governor has been maybe supported and you become nationally acknowledged, you win a party, a vote, and you enter a position, you defect. What is the value that you have created in the system? If you are a party member, stay in your party when there's up and where there's down. We believe that people have ideas to lead us. If you don't bring the idea to lead us again, what are we looking? Which person are we looking at?
All right.
2023 presidential election is by the corner. So we are supporting the governor. Let there be a system that will checkmate those that will enter into the position.
All right. Thank you, Augustine. You are supporting that position.
Let me just make some comment there. The last speaker is absolutely right. One should watch what one says. I said the governor was being opportunistic. I didn't say he was an opportunist. The position he is taking on this is what I say is opportunistic, because it seems to be to his favor. There have been other instances that did not favor him, and he supported them. This one did not favor him, and he's not supporting it. That's what I meant. All right? It's not a judgment on his character. I'm not in a position to do that. But for this position he has taken, in my opinion, it is an opportunistic position. All right? And he's also right that we ought to be, know where we are going to. All right? But my position, which is very clear, is that we start knowing where we are going to from the parties. I don't know if he knows what the ideology of PDP is, or what the ideology of APC is, or what the platforms are. All right? If we knew those things, and if we have evidence that yes, the parties produce these positions and they implement those positions, we'll be talking a totally different game. Right. My point is, given where you are, we've created so much mess in the system. We need to start clearing that mess, not by going to the courts, all right, but by coming back within the parties. Are the parties running democratically? All right? Do people within the parties have the opportunity to express themselves and express their views? When you exhaust those internal processes and somebody still says, I'm not satisfied, then that person can go. If the person goes, the Constitution says, sorry, you forfeit your office. You go back to the electorate. We have not been doing that.
Yeah, we haven't seen that happen. We've got, who's here? JJ in Rumibo. Thank you for staying tuned.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good morning to the Prof in the studio.
Good morning.
I want to ask or make one comment and ask a question. Let me start from Patrick Obayangbo, who was in the House of Reps and was defecting, and he made a speech after Oshomole's election, which is people that voted in for PDP, vote overwhelmingly for Oshomole of the APC. And he said, and I quote, that his people are choosing another party, and that his people are choosing another party, and he is representing his people. He cannot be in another party representing his people, and for this reason is moving over to the party that his people is choosing because he is representing his people. That is one. So how do you see that statement? That is on one part. The only opposition member of the Rivers State House of Assembly representing Oyigbo, when he came in, every other person, every other lawmaker in the Rivers State House of Assembly were given all their dues except him. The same governor stampeded him until he has to join his own party until he was given all his entitlements. How do you see that? Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Let's just take Bright's comment so we don't lose him. lose the call. Good morning, Bright. Thank you for staying tuned.
Thank you, in-law. Good morning.
Morning.
The statement of the governor and the position of the Constitution will not be determined by the court. The court can make a pronouncement on that, but it is the end for the part of the National Assembly. It will always have to end either by the Speaker or by the Senate President, because the Constitution says these are the ones that will declare the seat of the defecting member vacant. And the satisfactory of the reason being given by the defecting member will be satisfied by the Speaker or by the Senate President. So if a senator or a House of Reps member stands up to say, this is the reason why I'm defecting, the onus lies on either the Speaker or the Senate President to say, this reason is satisfactory or not, before that such seat can be declared vacant. There is no place a court can, there is no time a court can assume jurisdiction to compel the Senate President nor the House of Reps Speaker to declare such seat vacant. Okay. Then on the part of the governors, if he is seeing a Ebonyi State governor or and Cross River governor, the Supreme Court majority statement on those state electoral tribunal last 2 weeks pointed out something there. If you are suing a governor, that governor must be present, and the immunity clause on the governors forbid them from being sued or them suing. So going to court also will amount to nullity, because you are talking about the seat and the essence of this governor. They would be present in court. Going by that immunity clause, I see every legal challenge on their defection going to flop, because they have to be present to answer for themselves the reason why they are defected. Right. And the immunity clause forbids them. The immunity clause forbids them from going to court. So these two things, no matter the constitutional provision, it does not lie ultimately on the court, not even the Supreme Court, to so determine that this member should leave office. Either the Speaker and the Senate President or the presence of these governors will determine what the court will do. Thank you.
Thank you, Bryce, for calling.
Yes, it's good to have that legal clarification. But the gentleman who quoted a defector as saying he was defecting because his people had changed their position, again, it's another opportunistic statement. First of all, he was looking at the party winning in a particular state. And he says, because this party won, it means that my people have changed. I have no evidence, and I'm not sure that there's any evidence that his constituency changed. His constituency voted in support of that party. If they did, then why didn't he go back to recontest if he was so confident that they would? That's just another opportunistic, confident statement to make it look grand. I'm doing something ideal because my people. Who are your people? We hear these people say, my people, my people. They are their family, they are their friends and associates. When you really come back to the communities and to their constituencies, they may not have that command that they claim to have. So that statement should really not, in my opinion, distract from what has been going on to say, oh, somebody changed because his people changed. That is the ideal thing. But my point is that that person who made that statement was using it opportunistically in order to justify what he was going to do.
Okay. So some comments on Facebook. Macaulay Oge says, the faction is party affair. Court has nothing to do there. Court cannot say you should remain in the party that is not allowing you to drink water and keep calm. This matter of division, right? If there's a big division within the party, who decides that really?
It's the party members. And it should be decided based on some basic principle within the party. It's not something you leave to, individual interpretation. Let's say that we have a party that commits to free education. All right? And somewhere along the line, this party now begins to introduce school fees, begins to introduce levies, begins to introduce all kinds of charges against students. And a member or members of the party say, that's no longer free education. All right? I cannot support that because it's different from what we agreed, what I understood we were going to be doing. That is a clear case where that person can say, I step aside. In the United States, we had, until very recently, a senator who was a Democrat. Lieberman was his name. And Lieberman felt that his party was getting too radical, too progressive, and tending, according to their word, socialist. What did Lieberman do? He withdrew from the party. He didn't immediately go to the Republican Party. It is true in most cases he voted with the Republican Party, but he made clear what his position was to his constituency, and when he ran for election, he was re-elected on one occasion. Standing, he still carried the party ticket, he still says I'm a Democrat, but the Democrats in the House knew that when it comes to the vote, don't count on this man, because this is where his thinking goes. Nobody expelled him. In Nigeria, would have been expelled.
All right. This one says, Godwin James, that his court has nothing to do with the factors. Our politicians are wonderfully and fearfully made. Okay, that's from Akwa State. Thank you, Godwin James. Why is everything about structuring Nigeria centered on political parties rather than individuals? If there should be an infringement on the faction, then the so-called democracy we emphasize in having will so die. Well, let the government search themselves well and know what exactly this country wants. We wake up each day, we're tired of the resurface of political jabberwocky. Can't these people come together and drive us to something better? Politics always making unnecessary headlines is becoming tiring. Olaka Chris says, I personally think this is beyond the courts. If PDP finally goes to court, the judgment of the court won't favor PDP because there's no foundation of such in our constitution. We should leave those decamping to the ruling party alone and face governance. Odinaka says, good morning, Professor Eme. Governor Wike's statement is not the right one. Was he not the one who supported the governor of Edo State, who was an APC member that defected to the PDP and became the governor? Obara Swa says, of course, it will strengthen democracy. Enough of the injustice and defection. We'll give our mandate. Just because we won't do things in your selfish ways doesn't warrant you to abandon the party that kept you in that office. Young Henschel, if APC governors were defecting to PDP, will Governor Wike take them to court for defecting? But Jenny thinks that stiff penalties should be meted out to defectors because it's a shambolic act and a caricature of our democracy. Okay, it's in Benin, Edo State. Good morning. Thank you for watching live on Facebook. Ovunda Amadi says, I think the governor is making a very big mistake because, okay, talking about the defection. All right. Defection of party members is mostly prominent in polity where visible party ideology is lacking and the people are exhibiting strong desire for self-aggrandizement. This is the obvious case in Nigeria. However, I think Governor Wike needs to exhibit some political tolerance in his politicking. I hope the governor hasn't gotten a wind of judicial larceny. That's Ima Feaga. But let's talk about what this does to the electorate, when people that they support just keep, shuttling.
I don't know how it affects the electorate. When Ayade was in one party, and now that he has gone, has the policy changed? Nothing. The same with Omahi. The point is that the electorate is so deeply alienated from the political process that very few care what is happening. All that most people are asking is, give us some peace, give us some security, allow us the space to be human beings. And when they are not getting that, cynicism becomes very deep rooted in the society. And that's where we are. Okay, so for most people, they really couldn't give a hoot who has defected to where. Maybe the immediate hangers-on would worry, they would debate, they would bang their heads against the wall. But they wouldn't even do that, because, especially if they are sure that where they are going, the pot of soup will be bigger. All right? And because that is what has been driving our politics, like somebody, one of the messages you read out here mentioned quite correctly, that is really what has been driving Nigerian politics. And that's what makes it very difficult for people to stay within the law or to play by principles. And when you don't stay within the law and play by principles, when you obey the law when it suits you, and you flout it or ignore it when it does not suit you, you create a situation, you create a society of hooligans, because they know that at every level in the state, there is no rule of law. Rule of law means that Ekekwe is as liable for any offense as the governor, as the president, or as the local government chairman. But when I know that is not the case, it now creates a situation where I get away from what I think I can get away with, because that's what is happening at every level. All right. So these defections, unfortunately, they really don't impact the electorate. If it did, you defect and you're in the wrong party or you're following the wrong policy, we'll vote you out. But because it doesn't work, if those people who defected, like the recent case of Edo that we mentioned, assume that his programs were not popular, but the party he went to has the money, and so they can share the money. Yes, and get him back into office. And then we all clap and say, oh, he's very popular. We have not really tested the true popularity of most of our politicians.
All right. Benjamin Mezi says, because of the issue of crossing over to other parties, I never believe that our votes count. This is a clear, outcome of,
the alienation, and yes, yes.
Okay. Where are we? BOB says, I agree with your guest to a large extent, but the example of Governor Obaseki is wrong. It was APC that took Obaseki to court. Besides, Obaseki defected before contesting the governorship under the party's platform.
Only because at the time when the court case came up, he has a point. It appears as though he now defected and was elected on a new platform. But I think that's, again, a very debatable case. I don't support that position, but he's entitled to his view.
All right, thank you very much, Prof, for your time.
Thanks a lot.
We'll listen to the governor again, and then a commercial will play. PDP, he says, take legal action against Governor Ben Ayade of Cross River State and David Mahi of Ebonyi State for moving to the APC. My name is Eno Bevire. Good morning.
I have encouraged the People's Democratic Party, they must file a suit against the governor of Ebonyi State, David Mahi, and the governor of Cross River State, Ben Ayade, for defecting to the All Progressive Congress without any reason preferred as provided in the Constitution or any other enabling law. Let it be on record that the party has been able to challenge it, and let us await the outcome of the decision of the courts. Because the court has a role to strengthen our democracy. And part of the role the court must play is to make a final pronouncement on this issue of defection from one party to the other, having been elected by a particular political party. And when there are no divisions in the party, and people will come up with all kinds of excuses, they must challenge this. So that they are challenging the one of them. We cannot let go these other two states. It doesn't matter whether they win at the end of the day, but for once, let there be a pronouncement.